Welcome to another Lore You Should Know. I am Greg Tito, and as I like to say, I'm joined by Mr. Chris Perkins.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm splendid.
We are going to talk about a topic that is going to be very important for folks jumping into Eberron, Rising from the Last War. That is coming out November 19th of this year. And it is elemental galleons and airships.
Yes.
Vehicles that are, I wouldn't say unique necessarily to Eberron, but definitely feature prominently there.
Yes.
Right? Because there's airships. You guys have used an airship in Acquisitions Incorporated.
Yeah, we had that the battle balloon.
Yes.
Right. Yes. And some of its tech was stolen from Eberron, I imagine, because there are certain similarities.
I guess
for
that
sure.
makes sense. Yeah, you're right. So what is it about the Eberron vehicular nature that is exciting?
That's a good question. So Eberron is a pulp noir campaign setting where you're encouraged to travel great distances, sort of inspired by the Indiana Jones movies and the red line tracing across the map going from this place, and to Nepal or wherever.
Yeah.
And the idea of getting around and how you would in a magical society is a very important thing to consider. And so during the creation of, the concept art period for the original Eberron setting back in the early 2000s, we brought in a couple artists to help us concept how people would get around magically. Out of that concept art came things like the lightning rail, which we'll probably touch on in some future podcast, and these elemental galleons. I think it might have been Steve Prescott, the artist, who gave us our first look at what one of these things might look like.
Thanks, Steve.
And he basically took what looked like a ship that you would find in an ocean, put it up in the air, and had these struts coming off the side with a ring around the ship made out of elemental energy.
Okay.
And when we saw his initial concepts for that, we knew we had landed on something unique that we had never seen before in D&D. The ship with the distinctive elemental ring surrounding its midsection and propelling it through the air or wherever. We played with different elements after that. The fire ring was the first to show up. And then later we did a water version with a water ring that comes up over the ship's midsection and then goes under the water. And that's how the elemental galleons are powered. But we had to embed this concept in Eberron, in the world, and figure out who builds these, why, how they're controlled, that kind of thing. The characters can't make one. There's a very specific way to create them. It's very detailed. First thing you need is the material to build the ship. In the case of an airship, it has to be soarwood, which is very light, buoyant, and hangs in the air well. And the only place you can get soarwood on the planet of Eberron is on the island continent of Aeronal, which is the home of the Aeronal elves, who are these sort of death worshippers whose ancestors are still alive as undead and living among them. And they don't give up their forest wood very easily. They ration it out to people of Corvair, and so you don't get a lot of these airships. There are relatively few of them. It's very controlled because there isn't a lot of soarwood to build them.
Understood.
Once you have the ship, the critical component to making it a Eberron airship is the dragon shards, which is a unique thing to Eberron. So Eberron has a story myth that 3 powerful dragons created the world: Sybaris, Eberron, Kyber. They fought something. Kyber destroyed Sybaris. She became the ring around the planet. Eberron banished Kyber to the underworld. He became the Underdark and the subterranean realm, and then Eberron became the world itself. Anyway, there were 3 kinds of dragon shards in Eberron, named after each of these 3 dragons. The Kyber dragon shards are the ones that can store elementals in them, because Kyber's of the underworld. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Elemental, all that kind of stuff tied together. So you need a Kyber dragon shard to trap
What is a dragon shard?
A dragon shard is a gem, essentially. It's a crystal fragment, a spindle-shaped fragment, usually. Dragon shards grow the way crystals grow on Earth, that is to say, out of things normally.
Yeah.
Sybaris dragon shards being the exception, they actually fall from the sky.
Got it.
Eberron, you can get on the surface. Kyber dragon shards, you can only get underground. And Sybaris, you have to wait till they fall and land somewhere. Or you need some way to get up there, and it's way up there. So you get a Kyber dragon shard, and you say, I'm going to get a wizard or somebody to put a magical elemental in here. That dragon shard is put in a containment chamber on the ship, where it is trapped in the dragon shard, held in a fixture of some kind. And then the ship is designed or built to channel the elemental's power through it, like veins or arteries, to the binding struts that come off the sides of the ship and send the elemental up into a ring that forms around the ship. And it is the power of this elemental that empowers the ship to move. That and its very light, buoyant weight.
So it's actually got the physical elemental that's trapped in this gem. And
correct.
It's like kind of bleeding it and taking its energy. And
correct.
How does it project it so that it's a ring around?
Magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That just because it looked cool. And
I think part of it is rings are very natural shapes.
Yeah.
They're economical shapes. A square is actually not an economical shape. When you're talking about spreading power over a circuit, you want it to be,
a circle.
A circle.
Yeah. Okay. That makes
and
sense.
So,
but not a sphere. It's a ring.
It's a ring. It's a
and
ring around the midship.
I see.
Part of the vessel.
Okay.
And so it's vertical, as opposed to lying flat. It's perpendicular to the ground.
Right.
And so now you've got a light ship. You've got the elemental to power it. The one thing you're missing is someone to control the elemental and someone to steer the ship,
mm-hmm.
and a method to steer the ship. House Lorandar is one of the dragon-marked houses of Eberron, and members of a dragon-marked house have these tattoo-like things called dragon marks that have innate magical powers within them. And Lorandar is known as the Mark of Storm, and the half-elves of Lorandar are the only ones who have figured out how to harness their dragon mark's power to control the elemental aboard a ship and guide it. So on a Lorandar airship, the pilot is a dragon-marked Lorandar scion.
Interesting.
So you need that.
They're the only creatures on Eberron who can control
that elementals.
Wow.
With the technology that they've created.
Got it.
Now, maybe it's possible you could build a different kind of airship, functionally similar, powered differently by different means.
Is House Lorandar the only house that builds these ships?
Yes, they have a monopoly.
Oh, okay.
As the dragon-marked houses do in Corvair, on the continent of Corvair, they all have carved out monopolies based on the powers that they possess. So Lorandar has got airships and travel, just like the dwarves of House Kundarak, which is another dragon-marked house, basically control things like mining and banking.
Got it.
But I digress. So you've got that. You've got your pilot. You've got your ship. You got your elemental. The last thing you're missing is the helm, the device that's basically going to steer the ship through the air, because the elemental will just propel you forward. It has no direction sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's just providing the motive force. For the control, you need a Sybaris dragon shard embedded in a magic item, which is basically serving as the helm. And it could look like a captain's wheel, the wheel of wind and water, I think it's called, which it's like a captain wheel situated on the deck of the ship, usually the aft castle. And the pilot mans the wheel. The Sybaris shard embedded in the wheel allows the ship to be guided along different courses, backwards, forwards, upside down, whatever you want. All of those things make that. Now, the elemental galleon is, like I said, a variant. It just moves across the water instead of through the air. It's a little bit slower, too. It goes about 10 miles per hour, whereas an elemental airship will go about 20 miles per hour.
I see. Now, do they have to, you mentioned different elementals. I mean, does a water elemental make more sense to be one of the elemental galleons that goes on the ship? Is that how it changes it, right?
Yeah.
An air elemental.
Air and fire are typically good for use up above. Water for the ground. Earth is useless.
You guys just sink.
Although when I was running a campaign, I riffed on that and actually came up with a land traveling vehicle that was earth elemental powered. But it made a mess of roads.
Just tore them all to shreds.
Shreds. So sort of an earth sled with an elemental earth ring.
That's pushing it forward. Yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned there's a rare number of them. Like what number is there? Like, is there tens? Are there hundreds?
We don't exactly say, because we want you to be able to customize it for your own campaign. But based on the language, you're probably looking at maybe a dozen
Total?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So
but they get
rare.
around.
Yeah.
They get around. There are common routes that they travel, crisscrossing Corvair, and also it's the easiest way to get from the continent of Corvair to any of the other continents of Eberron, including Sarlona, which is the other sort of human-centric continent, and Zendrick, which is a great place to go if you're hunting for Eberron or Cerberus dragon shards.
Because it's less civilized or
less
settled.
Less settled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're more chance of finding them from falling from the sky. Right?
Exactly.
Got it.
So it's interesting. These things aren't a dime a dozen. We did an adventure back in when Eberron launched that kind of showcased vehicles such as this, which is cool.
Yeah, I could see it being a huge just MacGuffin or part of the story that you're telling of like,
Yes.
oh, we have to find the shard,
Yes.
being that half elf who's creating my own ship, and then I'm going to
Right.
be the captain of it.
Yes.
And you have to
Exactly.
get all these parts in
Yeah.
order to make it work.
You can also run an entire campaign that's basically, hey, you are the crew of an airship, and you are going about and going off on adventures.
Yeah.
Very kind of Star Trek: The Next Generation-esque. It's like, where will we set down today, and what trouble is affecting the local region, and if we step on this grass, will we be put in jail? Things like that. Sorry, I was thinking of the Star Trek episode where.
Yes, Wesley.
Yeah,
Yes.
poor Wesley.
I was just trying to catch that ball.
I was just trying to catch the ball. Hey, get off my lawn!
Death! I like that idea for sure, but if there's only a dozen of them out there, it feels very rare.
Yeah.
So that would you'd be not only just going on adventures, but I feel like it would be coveted by all of their forces, right?
Yeah, and if Lorandar didn't really hold a monopoly on controlling them, you could see how they might become more widespread. But as long as one house is dictating, that's the way it goes. But actually, the bigger issue is Arenal, and as I said, the wood.
The number of the amount of sword wood.
Yeah, elves don't like it when you go into their forests and chop down their trees.
Well, maybe you could. That's another whole campaign is trying to go in and talk to the elves and see if you can get what you want to make more.
Yeah, they'll just give you funny, quizzical looks.
Yeah, or just take it.
Send you back home with a keychain. Yeah.
Yeah, or figure out how to conquer,
Right.
that area.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's what you're trying to thwart is some other house trying to conquer it. And like there's tons of story hooks here.
And of course, Eberron being given its noir roots and its pulpy roots, the idea of a sort of Murder on the Orient Express story, but in a airship, is kind of a fun concept too.
That is a great concept.
The Golden Dragon is one of the airships, one of the better known ones, and one of the bigger ones. And there was an adventure that was basically that. It's like you got a bunch of passengers traveling together on this ship. Who did what to whom?
Who done it?
Who done it?
Yeah.
Solve it before you get to your destination.
Do they sell tickets? I mean, are many of them just passenger transport?
That's primarily what they are, is
okay.
passenger stuff. Cargo can be shipped on an elemental galleon or a regular ship. But, yeah.
Cool.
Part of it, too, is... but they're good size. I mean, they're like galleon size, so you can fit cargo even on the passenger ships.
Yeah. I would assume that'd be the only way to really kind of make ends meet for it, right? Because you want to have cargo and passengers going back and forth, right? It's like that airship in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Exactly. Yes, precisely. And one of the features of the Rising from the Last War is that we give the DM a lot of information on how to build adventures around these vehicles and how to use them in play. Everything right down to a table, a big master table of mysterious passengers.
Oh.
Instant passengers, we got...
Roll the die.
We got a lot of them.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then you can go up to them and be like, no ticket.
No.
And then throw them off.
It has to happen.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. And there's maps, too, for these airships in there as well, right?
Well, there's a cutaway diagram of the airship.
Got it.
And then there's, I mentioned earlier, the lightning rail. We
Yes.
put maps of the lightning rail coaches on there.
Great.
Because we also expect a lot of adventure to happen on the trains of Eberron.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we will get into trains, planes, and automobiles at another segment. Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
How can people ask you questions about Eberron?
I am on Twitter at Chris Perkins DND.
Excellent.
Yes.
We look forward to picking your brain about more fun things about that setting and many others going forward. So we'll be back next week with more lore you should know later. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Greg.
All right, we did it. We did it with 10 minutes to spare. Yes.
Yes.
I like it. Thank you, everyone who has been watching here for the last 4 hours. I appreciate each and every one of you except for you. No, you're good. You're cool. Just kidding.
Were you pointing at me?
No. I was the royal you. We are going to have Binwin Plays Idle Champions coming up in just about 10 minutes. We will be back next week with more Dragon Talk, although we got to figure out exactly what is going to happen and who the guest will be. But we'll let you know that via our Twitter. So always look for that, Wizards_D&D, or you can pester me or Chris, but he won't necessarily know what's happening, but you can pester him as well.
I never know what's happening.
Ask Pelham. Pelham will know.
Yeah.
I know it. I know it to be true. But again, thank you everybody for watching and listening. You're all awesome. We will be back next week, but be sure to watch Acquisitions Incorporated tonight, 7:30 Pacific time on the PAX channel. We'll be hosting it here, of course, but go watch Jeremy Crawford, Dungeon Master, for folks at the Paramount Theater, live from Seattle.
It's going to be super fun. Not only they got Mike and Jerry, the return of Jim Dark Magic and Omen Drawn, but they've also got Patrick Rothfuss and Viari.
Yes.
They've got Anna Prosser Robinson as Evelyn Marthane, Paladin.
Yes.
And they've got WWE superstar Xavier Woods.
What?
Yeah, it's going to be mad.
5 players.
Yes.
Changes everything when there's 5.
Yes.
That'll be exciting.
Out of Ravnica into the fire.
Into the fire of Avernus. I can't wait. If Jeremy doesn't have a Mad Maggie impression, I'm gonna be upset, and I will have words with him. But it'll be tons of fun. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. See you later. Bye.